A new big-name wide receiver is on the market. Should the 49ers pounce? And what is the plan? Going all in or the slow build for these San Francisco 49ers? We'll get to the bottom of that on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always. If you know, you know. It's a Wednesday, so it is a Winky Wednesday. We'll introduce our guest in just 1 second. First, I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in, especially our everydayers. We love you. We appreciate you. Hit the thumbs up on YouTube just to let us know you stopped by. And if you're new to the program, welcome. You can hang out with us every day, breaking down the NFL draft, free agency, trades, and getting ready for the 2025 season. Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts. And now, let's bring on today's guest.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down.
Can't believe it.
Action News in Sports with Nick Winkler.
Wink, what's happening, my man? Did you enjoy the Combine? How locked in were you? I know you were moving as well. Welcome back to the Bay Area, by the way.
I watched exactly 0% of the NFL Combine. I was really big into reading about it afterwards, right? Reading stats and reading the breakdowns of each bench press and, the 10-yard splits and things like that. I love all that stuff. But yeah, like you said, I was moving. So a lot of that was, just catching a highlight here or there from the Combine. And I'm not a huge Combine guy. I mean, imagine, looking back at a Combine with like Jerry Rice, and you're like, oh, he ran a 4.7. It's like nobody would have been that impressed with a guy like that, right? It's about how they look on the field more so for me in the tape than it does what a guy does, running around in some latex or spandex, whatever they're running around in.
You can make a lot of mistakes if you're just paying attention to the Combine, although it does get you excited and you do like checking some boxes. And that's kind of what it is for me. It's like, okay, are you kind of removed from consideration because you are an outlier and you don't quite fit? Do I need to go back to the tape and see if I can see this more consistently on tape, this athleticism, or just checking the box? You see a big guy run fast on the field, you're like, yep, he's big and he ran fast. Cool. We got that one figured out, right? Did anything jump out to you where you're like, that's very interesting of a kind of prospect for the 49ers?
I mean, for me, I was just looking at offensive linemen, defensive linemen. I didn't really check too much else for the 49ers because I feel like that's their glaring need going into this. And if you're sitting at 11, like there's a lot of talent out there right now. I mean, I was really hoping Mike Green might do a little bit more. When you lead the FBS in sacks, you don't need to do much else. So for me, he's probably still my front runner, even though he only went out there and did bench press. But, you saw a guy like Mykel Williams and you're like, okay, this guy's got what it's all about. A couple offensive linemen as well where you're like, what's his name? The guy out of LSU. Campbell.
Yeah.
Where they're like, his arms are too short. And you're like, okay, as a tackle, you do need longer arms. And you go back to the Alex Smith stuff, right? Where like his hands are too short.
Too small hands.
Too small. Yeah, so it's like with Campbell, I liked him early on, but now I'm like, well, I don't know. Now he's got short arms.
I mean, instead of being a Pro Bowl tackle, maybe he's just an all-pro guard or center. Like he's a smart guy. I think he would be a phenomenal center. Do you draft a center or even a guard at pick 11 is kind of the question for the 49ers and who else is there. Croc, I know you want to jump in on this.
So I have a guy. All right. This is a little bit unorthodox, but Tez Johnson, receiver out of Oregon, and shout out to Sam Munson. He had tweeted out, Tez Johnson put together one of the weirdest workout composites of any receiver, probably historically. All right. He's like the lightest receiver in the history. He's literally in the 0 percentile. All right. That's 154 pounds. So obviously skinny, right? Like I think my sons, they definitely weigh more than that. All right. Pedestrian 40 time, he ran a 4.51. So it's not even like, man, he's one of these super skinny guys, but man, he's lightning fast. But he had an above average 10-yard split, whatever, 1.53. Here's where he kind of excelled. He had an elite 3-cone, which is one of the fastest I've ever seen, 6.65. And he clocked the fastest miles per hour of any receiver during drills. All right, so that's not just the 40-yard dash, but during the drills where you can reach a top speed, he was able to operate at the fastest time. Now, why that's important is because football is, especially playing receiver, is all about controlled high-end speed. So even if you aren't the fastest guy, can you give the illusion that you're moving really fast, but still be able to sell routes? And if anybody has watched Tez Johnson, you watched him at the Senior Bowl, you watched him at Oregon, he is a separator. He's a guy that's a separator. He's a guy that's a playmaker. He's light as hell. So you would have to have a plan like, dude, we got to put 15 pounds on you, but not take away from your elusive ability, which makes him a good football player. But he's someone that's intriguing. It's not a Davante Adams conversation where he was like 166 pounds. Everybody got scared of it. I'm like, look, dude's a baller. He plays above the rim. At no point did his size ever show up on film as an issue. And he was able to play as big as he needed, depending on the receiver or defensive back he was playing against. Heisman Trophy Award winner, destroyed everybody. He was going to be a top 10 pick. That was the conversation with him. But for Tez, because of this, could you get him in the 4th round, 5th round? And have a guy where it's like, look, he's a good football player and he fits what Kyle likes. Like Kyle likes the quick guys. And I think he prioritizes quickness over pure speed. Obviously, he would like a little size. You got to be able to block in the 49ers offense. But is this someone that can say, you know what? Maybe gets a little chip on his shoulder, slides in the draft, goes lower than he probably was anticipating when this process started. And you get someone that is an elite separator. I mean, he's terrific at that. So he's a very intriguing prospect. He doesn't, he doesn't show up in some of the areas that you would like from a testing or measurement standpoint, but could you help him along and does he fit what the 49ers do? And I would say in the 4th round is definitely worth taking the risk on.
Yeah, 5097, 154. So 5'9" and 7/8, just a little under 5'10", 154 pounds. That was me in like junior high. And I was not.
And it's guys like Deshaun Jackson, right? Deshaun Jackson, 5'10" at the combine.
Yeah, blazing speed.
165. Now, he had blazing football speed.
Yeah.
But now he ran well at the combine, but not maybe as fast as people would expect. He ran like a 4.42 or something like that, if I remember correctly. So it wasn't even like what he turned out to be in the NFL as a deep ball threat, one of the greatest deep ball threats in football history. But it wasn't blazing. Now, clearly faster, and I think his game is different than Tez Johnson, where Deshaun Jackson won with speed. Tez Johnson wins a little bit more with quickness and separation on underneath routes. And I think that's something that can definitely translate to the NFL, but you definitely have to put some kind of plan together on him putting on some weight, because you're not going to go into the NFL at 154 and think, you're just going to be able to play with these guys that are, a small defensive back is 188 pounds, right? And that's 40 pounds heavier than this kid. So he has to put on a little weight. But you don't have to go to school now. All right. Like there's no more school. Everything that you're doing is to be a professional athlete. You show up in the mornings, they got breakfast for you, they got protein shakes for you, they got a weight room program for you, you got film, you got weights, everything can be dedicated to where, man, you can put on 12 good pounds in 2 months.
Even Deshaun Jackson, who was undersized, was 15 pounds heavier at the combine than Tez Johnson. But that's kind of the point with all of this. Like whether it's Will Campbell, it's like, okay, Will Campbell, is he your guy? Doesn't quite fit. Do you want to chase the outlier at tackle, or are you okay with what he is? Or can you get him a little bit later? Could you trade down and does he fall a little bit now since he's not a tackle for some teams? And maybe he's the 4th offensive line off the board instead of the 1st offensive line off the board. Someone like Tez Johnson, well, you don't have to worry about drafting him on day 2 because he's not going to go on day 2 because he's an outlier. You can get him day 3 and it's like, if it doesn't work out, that's okay because you didn't have to spend the high pick on him. So that's kind of what we learned at the combine. I think it's way more, especially for the fast guys. You can have all the fastest wide receivers and corners at the combine every year. You can have them all. Give me the fastest offensive lineman and defensive lineman at the combine every year, right? Especially the offensive lineman. And I think the team would end up better. I'll take the 4.50 wide receivers all day long. I'm fine with that. Give me the fast offensive lineman. You can have the 4.3 guys because those guys don't turn out.
How would you feel if Tez Johnson showed up to his pro day? Sorry, my dog is barking in the background. How would you feel if Tez Johnson on his pro day showed up 8 pounds heavier, runs a better 40 time, right? Kind of gets in that more 4.47 range, maybe 162 pounds or so, and he started to creep towards a little bit more of what you would like, at least rookie year, like can you get to 170 maybe, right? Like starts to kind of creep towards that. Could you be talked into maybe potentially like making it a little bit more of a priority to bring him in as a flyer? And I'm not saying he's someone that's going to come in and just Jacob Cowan, you're out of here because this guy's similar, right? Like he's not going to take anybody's spot, but is he someone that say is a good football player? Let's bring him in and see if he does some things that we like it, and if not, see ya.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be a late pick, and definitely it'd be like a flyer type of a pick for an outlier like that. And there's other players like that. Willie, I wanted to say Willie Beeman. Willie, what's his name
Steeman.
Willie Beeman. North Carolina center is like 5'10", 270. He's awesome at the Senior Bowl, good tape. And like the teams are like, no, don't even waste an invite at the combine. We're not going to draft the player that's that much of an outlier. But it's like, I don't know, bring him in, see if he can play fullback. I don't know if he's a good football player, but it's got to be late. It's got to be so late. And you have to take a big discount for guys that are the big outliers because you don't want to chase the outliers and expect something. You want to be pleasantly surprised that you took them later and they were actually more. And don't you think a guy like Tez Johnson, if he could get to 160 pounds, he would have done it by now? Like, that's the other thing is like some guys can get a lineman can probably gain 12 pounds. Tez Johnson probably will never weigh more than 160 pounds, even if you drink 8 gallons of water. You know what I mean? So, let's move on. I want to ask you guys a question here. And this is kind of inspired by the Warriors 2 timeline. If you're a Warriors fan, you know what I'm talking about. And where the 49ers are now and what should be the best path, going all in, maybe slowly rebuilding, shedding salary, getting younger, adding as many picks as possible to build this thing for the long haul around your newly expensive quarterback, or somewhere in between. This is an ABC conversation. And we'll try to pick the right answer for the 49ers going forward next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Chewy. You might have heard Croc's dog bark in the background there. That's probably because he's hungry. It's probably because they need to hit Chewy.com and go get some pet food, get some dog food, maybe some treats for the little guy. Romeo, right, Croc? Is it Romeo? Yeah, Romeo. Romeo needs some
Romeo is still barking in the background, so I'm on mute, guys. He's going crazy right now. He definitely needs some Chewy in his life.
Chewy.com/LockedOnNFL, and you can save $20 on your first order with free shipping. And you probably heard of Chewy. I get Chewy delivered all the time. My wife loves ordering the Chewy. There's a Chewy box, it seems like at least every week on our doorstep when I get home. And they really do have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, whether you're shopping for food, treats, or even pet health care. Chewy makes it fast, easy, and affordable with over 100,000 products from all your favorite brands. Chewy has everything your pet needs, from food and treats to toys, beds, and grooming. And it's not just for dogs and cats. They've got supplies for birds, fish, reptiles, and small pets too. And I love how fast those Chewy orders arrive. And auto ship is awesome. It saves you time, saves you from accidentally running out of that food or treats for your dog or cat. And Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet healthy and happy. And right now you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewy.com or clicking on the link in the description. Minimum required purchase, new customers only, terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details. All right, guys. I don't know if you remember this. There was the 2 timelines conversation that surrounded the Golden State Warriors. And this was when they had a championship caliber football team. You have Steph Curry, you got Draymond Green, you got Klay Thompson, right? And then it's like, okay, well, we want to win championships still, but we also want to develop some talent. We got this number 2 pick in the draft. What are we going to do with this pick? And we want to be great and then develop the next great players that end up being around the core and maybe start to replace some of the older core as they age out, right? That proved to be very difficult, and it proved to be not a good plan. It didn't happen. Now, maybe if they would have picked a different guy at pick number 2 in the draft, if they would have the first pick instead of the second pick, if they would have taken a different player, whatever it is, it's just so hard to thread that needle. And the 49ers are in a spot where I feel like they're trying to do that 2 timeline thing. And I don't know if you want to call this the 3 timeline or whatever with the 49ers, but I'm going to lay out an A, B, and a C proposition for you. And those 3 things are, and Davante Adams has been released, and we won't talk about that. If you guys think Davante Adams should be potentially a San Francisco 49er and what that would look like, and he had a crazy contract where he was going to get like 30-something million the next couple of years, so it was not a shock that he was finally released by the New York Jets. So he's available out there. He might just have to wait until Aaron Rodgers. Apparently, he doesn't want to play for anybody else. He only wants to play for quarterbacks he's caught passes from. It's either Carr or Rodgers, and that's it. So we'll see where Davante Adams chooses. But is that the route the 49ers should even go? So A is all in. all in right now. Do everything you can. F them picks. Don't worry about the future salary cap. You are building the best possible team you can right now to win around your older group of stars before they age out, and try to keep that Super Bowl window open and try to hoist that Lombardi this year. And if it falls apart after that, then that's what happens. But you choose that path. That could be Davante Adams. That could be a Myles Garrett trade. It could be both of them together. Who knows? That is A. You're going all in. You're not worried about the future at all. And then there's C, which is the opposite end of that. And interesting hearing John Lynch guys talk about this at the combine and talking about how much cash spending and how they might have to get a little smarter about some of that and get a little younger going forward. It's like, okay, what about that? Where they're like, okay, the old Super Bowl window was exactly that. That was the old Super Bowl window. 2025 and beyond, it's not the same team. We can't continue that same build. So whether it's Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, whoever is like an older player that's not going to be part of a future core in 2027 or whatever, those players need to be available. They need to shed salary. They need to add as many picks as they can, maybe utilize pick 11 in the draft to move down, add picks, add future picks, and build this thing slowly and properly around their star quarterback that they're about to pay $50 to $60 million a year in Brock Purdy, and build it that way. And that would be C. And those two are kind of the extremes. What I think the 49ers might be trying to do, what the Warriors tried to do, which is, I think, I don't want to poison the well here with your guys' opinions. My least favorite option is B, where you kind of try to half-ass it and do both at the same time. I think it's just hard to do, because I think what happens is you might raise your floor in the short term, but you lower your current ceiling and you lower your future ceiling with that route. And are you going to be good enough with trying to cut that down the middle in option B? Are you going to be good enough to win a Super Bowl? Because option C, you could have a future Super Bowl. Option A, you could have a current Super Bowl. Option B, you might not have either, but you might be a little bit more competitive and kind of playing it down the middle. What do you guys think? Wink, let me go to you first. You are the voice of the fan. As the voice of the fan, and I'm sorry, 49ers fans, this is the only vote that counts. So this is the fan vote right now. Nick Winkler, A, B, or C, what route should the 49ers take?
F them picks, man. I mean, I feel like we've been waiting for the Super Bowl since 95. It's one of those things we've been so close so many times now, and it's heartbreaking. It's extremely difficult. The 49ers have holes to fill. They have a lot of question marks. You mentioned the Davante Adams thing. Like, wide receiver is a huge question mark right now. You have, Ayuk coming back off of an injury. You don't know what he's going to be like. You got Pearsall, who's a second-year guy who we saw flashes of late in the season. Juwan Jennings has this huge outlier season last year, but can he replicate that? Debo's gone. Like, you need to do something in the wide receiver area now if you're the 49ers. So to me, you got to do something. I still want them to go get Myles Garrett too. Like, I want them to go for it. You're not going to have Christian McCaffrey much longer. Trent Williams is on his way out. He's on his last leg. Like, they're going to invest a ton of money in their quarterback, which is going to hurt the process of bringing in bigger guys and bigger contracts down the road. So for me, it's right now. You go for it. This is the season. This is the year where the 49ers are like, let's go get it. And hopefully they do. Because if not, you are going to hurt your future a little bit. You just are. That's the way it's going. But in the NFL, you go get it, and then you worry about future, later.
Croc, I'm going to go to you next. Think about that. I want your opinions on Davante Adams. What kind of player you think he still is right now at this stage of his career, if he's a fit for the 49ers, and then which timeline you would take for the 49ers going forward, put into plan starting in the 2025 offseason. Timeline A is the all-in. Timeline B, kind of down the middle. Timeline C is all about the future and building around Brock Purdy and the future of this football team, younger, faster, and healthier. Next. All right, Croc. Davante Adams is a free agent. What do you think? Like, is it like, oh, heck yeah, this is a dude, is an all-pro dude, a difference-making dude. Let's go. Davante Adams, how much do you think he has left? What have you seen from him recently? Is he a fit for the 49ers? I want to ask you about him kind of separately, and then I want to get your opinion on timeline A, B, or C for the 49ers going forward.
Well, Davante Adams, he's still a good football player, for sure. And one of the better receivers. He's very crafty. He understands how to get open and get separation. I think for me, the biggest concern or question would be, what his price tag will be. Because, I talk about a lot with the 49ers. they're not going to do a lot to help Davante Adams create more, targets and opportunities. So is he a guy kind of like Brandon Ayuk, right? Like Brandon Ayuk, he lines up at X, he's on the ball. It's just like, all right, just win your routes, and within the concept of it, you may get the ball, you may not. Davante Adams is more of a high volume guy. Like you have to throw him targets to get the most benefit out of him, whether it's down the field, intermediate. Obviously he has terrific hands. I think he had a little bit of the dropsies over the past couple of seasons, a little bit more than usual. You guys can kind of fact check that for me out there, everybody listen to the podcast. But he's a terrific receiver, but I think he is very specific. So with the 49ers, it would be, all right, do you kind of change up your philosophy a little bit and center the passing game a little bit more around a guy like Davante Adams? So, if you are willing to do that, as well as, of course, get the ball to the other guys, that the Ricky Pearsall and the Brandon Ayuk's and the Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle, then I'd say, heck yeah, go get him now. But if you don't, then I may stay away from Davante Adams, because I think, like Deebo Samuel, but in a different way, they are kind of a little specific to their usage.
I would question whether Davante Adams would want to come to the 49ers. I think he would want to play with the 49ers, in theory. But then when you kind of start looking at it, a big picture, when you start looking at it more granular, and you're like, well, hold on a second. Well, you probably have to take a little bit of a mercenary contract, a short term. You're not going to get that $30-40 million a year contract from the 49ers, right? But so you're going to have to want to come, you're going to be essentially ring chasing, right? You're coming here. It's going to be at a discount from what you've played at in the past. And it's not going to be a high volume passing game. So you're going to help out the 49ers more than they're going to help you out, aside from chasing that ring, because it's not going to be high volume coming your way. Even if you're the number one receiver on the team, and it's not going to be a big money contract. So I feel like it's probably not very likely that Davante Adams would come to the 49ers. But if it's that scenario where he's like, I want to chase a ring, want to come back play in California, let's go. Sweetheart discount, short term, and whatever I can do to help the team win. I don't need 12 targets a game. I don't need 100 catches. Let's go win a Super Bowl. Then you kind of can't say no to that. It's hard for me to believe a player in this day and age and a guy like Davante Adams would be cool with all that. And we've seen just too many disgruntled wide receivers. Is he going to come in and be like, dude, what, 4 targets? What are we doing here? I'm Davante Adams, 4 targets? What's going on? Right? I could see that happening real quick if there was a guy like Davante Adams. But I think with the injury, with Ayuk's injury, and kind of unknown exactly when he's going to be ready, and then with Deebo officially gone now, you got to bring in a receiver of some sort that's of the veteran variety, probably, just to have your bases covered, and then maybe a mid-round pick as well. I don't know if you would go to the top of that market as a veteran receiver option, but if he'd be down for all that, and I laid it out there, and I'm John Lynch, and I'm saying, hey, Davante, it's this and this. He's like, cool, I'm good with that. Let's go.
One thing you talked about with Davante Adams is, would he be cool with not getting a bunch of targets or a bunch of opportunities? And listening to Davante Adams talk, like, he wants to win for sure. I think that is a big priority for him. But also, I think he values his personal legacy as well. And he's kind of made that part clear. So he kind of wants his cake and wants to eat it too. Hey, you may have to take a little bit of money off of what you're seeking if you do want to ultimately get that ring. Because I think that's this thing that would kind of validate him and what his legacy is, as opposed to making a few more dollars.
Yeah, I mean, he's being rumored with Rodgers going to the Giants. I mean, you're not getting anywhere near a Super Bowl ring if you go get some money from the New York Giants just to play with Rodgers. So hopefully he does want to take a little bit of a discount and try to win.
We just saw that in the same city. Like, how much different is it going to look in the same sneaking stadium, right? The Giants said, "Oh, this time it's going to work." The exact same thing. We'll do that.
And he hated, and he's disgruntled. Like, he hated playing in New York. Yeah. One, he hated when he was in Vegas and the situation got to what it was. He hated that. And then you go to New York and it's clear he hates this situation as well. So it's like, bro, I get it. Get your money, get your bread. He's one of the more talented receivers I've seen, especially in recent years. Man, go play for a winning team. Because here's one thing that I think people don't really think about. Let's say, and we'll talk about the 49ers going all in a second, but you go and you win a Super Bowl with the 49ers. It's not even just to say, man, I won a Super Bowl. It's, you will always now be recognized as Super Bowl champion Davante Adams. Like, that in itself is worth a certain amount of money. because you got signings, you got all kind of stuff for the rest of your life after you are part of a championship team. The 49ers haven't had that in many, many generations now. But if I'm him, I maybe lean a little bit more towards that because if there's anything that's going to help his post-career legacy, it would be winning a Super Bowl. And I think there's plenty of money in that, especially if you do it in the Bay Area where you're from.
Yeah. If you're, California kid aside, if you're Davante Adams, though, and you're chasing a ring, you'd probably be a Kansas City Chief, right? Or you might go, how about let's go play with Josh Allen in Buffalo and be the number one receiver there. I'm going to see a lot more volume, and I can still chase that ring just as much as I could in another spot.
I had mentioned, I think that, this kind of has the Dallas Cowboys written all over it, even though it's not a West Coast team. Jerry Jones, not sure how much time he has left. I think he may start to get a little desperate with trying to win this Super Bowl. And we've seen him do it with Terrell Owens, Keyshawn Johnson, Vinny Testaverde, bringing in kind of a big name guy, that's not at the end of their career, but it's a little bit later in it. And all right, hey, we just need you can you play opposite CeeDee Lamb? I could see Jerry Jones being like, I ain't got much time left, Steven. We got to make this happen.
I mean, to bring
but
it
some
back
people
to the
said
Warriors.
the Chargers. Some people in my comments said the Chargers.
Yeah.
And that also made a lot
team.
of sense. West Coast, Los Angeles, playoff team. And it's clear Herbert, his best receiver was Ladd McConkey, and that's not to downplay Ladd McConkey and what he potentially is in the NFL. Peacock and I both really liked him. But if you can add someone like Davante Adams to the mix, and now he kind of gets that Keenan Allen type of guy that maybe even still has a little bit more juice than Keenan Allen, I think that would be a good signing for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Or the Rams, right? I mean, you're talking about another playoff team, West Coast, California. Obviously, I don't want him to go to the Rams. I want him out of the NFC West unless he's a Niner. But to bring it back to the Warriors thing, go KD on it. Come on, and win a championship. Yeah. Come on, and, or come be Jimmy Butler from this year. Come on, come join the squad, have some fun.
That's what's fascinating.
Come be Luka to the Lakers.
Hey, I'm down with a Warriors Lakers playoff series because it was looking like that was going to be an impossibility before the trade deadline, and now those teams are very interesting and both playing some good ball. But keeping it on that same idea, the Warriors, it failed with their 2 timelines thing. They're like, screw it, we got to go all in, and so they finally ended up packaging everything, getting a star in, and now they're looking like a much better football team. So if there's a lot of differences in the NBA and the NFL, but that's kind of like, just stay going all in. If you're all in, go all in, and then worry about it later. And the Rams kind of showed you that you can turn it around pretty quickly too if you have some good drafts and you've got a good quarterback and a good coach, right? And so I'll put it to you, Croc. Timeline A, it's going all in. Timeline C is you're building for the future, you're trading expensive parts, and you're trading those in for cheaper, younger, faster, healthier parts to build around your young quarterback and build it organically. And then B is sort of the center timeline where you try to tiptoe the balance between both of those.
I think you go all in. And I think the 49ers have been going more B, trying to tiptoe around both timelines and, okay, let's try to do this, but we want to do this. And in their hearts, they want to win right now. The interesting thing about the NFL is it's really not about tomorrow. You worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. Right now, you got to focus on today and how can you get your team better right now. And the 49ers have a great opportunity. There's some guys I've had my concerns, right? Like just age and injuries with some of these guys. You don't know how much longer you have. And the best thing that you can do is surround Brock Purdy with enough talent to be able to withstand whatever happens. And you got to hope for some good injury health like they had a couple years ago. And Philadelphia Eagles, people wonder why did the Philadelphia Eagles just randomly win the Super Bowl? Dude, they played in the Super Bowl with 21 out of the 22 starters that started the season.
That's
so
crazy.
There's a health aspect to it as well. And then immediately after they win the Super Bowl, what do they do? James Bradbury, you got to go. Darius Slay, you got to go. They're starting to make some decisions. I think they may make a decision on one of their big name receivers as well, right? But when you win a Super Bowl, it kind of gives you the ability to make some of those moves. Well, we won, right? Saw with Kansas City. Yeah, they won the ring with Tyreek Hill. And hey, man, we got our ring. So, all right, you want to go get money? Go get it somewhere else. And then they route off a couple more wins. But if I'm the 49ers, man, you don't know how much more time you have with this group, and you have to maximize it. And I think you may only have this upcoming season, especially when you talk about Brock Purdy's eventual contract that he'll sign kicking in and making it a little bit more difficult down the line. So I'd say you can't wait, man. If it's me, man, go get Myles Garrett, even if it costs pick 11.
Yes.
Go get Davante Adams and say, sell him on. We are all in, and we're trying to go all in right now. And hopefully you win your Super Bowl, and you worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. And that's tough. I get it, because I'm all for the bigger picture. I'm all for being patient. But right now, I think the 49ers, with their current timeline, they're running out of patience. George Kittle, I mean, he's older now. CMC coming off of injuries. He's older now, especially for
Fred Warner, older.
Deebo Samuel out of there. Fred Warner, injuries. Dre Greenlaw, are you going to bring him back or not? Hufanga, another guy who's an all-pro. Travarius Ward, guys, they're out of there. You're losing a lot of pieces, and you got to figure out how to make up for it. I think the best way for them, get a Myles Garrett and load up on offense. And hey, we got a guy that can change the game on the defensive side. We're going to outscore everybody on the offensive side.
Yep. And the big downfall, obviously, with that is if you do go all in and you make yourself worse in the future and you still don't win. And then that's like the disaster. But if you win, you hoist that thing, you're okay. Los Angeles Rams fans right now, I think, are okay with where they're at in the rebuild.
Like they say, if my auntie had nuts, she'd be my uncle. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if that even fits in this scenario, but we're going to roll with it. I love it. It's unanimous. Go all in. They've kind of started to go down that path. It's a little too late, I think, to back off of that if you're the 49ers. And just don't pick B. Don't be mediocre. Rebuild the thing.
Pick A.
Yeah. And or go all in. And I think most 49ers fans, and I think, Nick, you picked well for the voice of the fan. I think A. I think A is probably what you have to go for right now, because you've kind of already gone too far down that path. If you wanted to do B or C, I think that might have needed to happen already. And it's a lot easier to do C once you already win. You can still go path C after you finish up your path A as well, and then start your rebuild there. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Nick, for joining us again on another Winky Wednesday. Appreciate all the everydayers out there. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Back tomorrow, right here. Locked On 49ers.
Can't believe it.
F that Biggs.
Wow.